the glass ceiling under the chandelier. "Excuse me, ma'am. This area is reserved for customers," the saleswoman said, her tone clipped and flat, each syllable sharpened by assumption. She didn't lift her eyes from the tray of diamond tennis bracelets she was meticulously aligning. Her voice was wrapped in that brittle version of politeness, polished and poisonous, that said more than her words ever could. Daniela Reese didn't answer immediately. She stood beneath the crystal chandelier of the flagship store she'd founded 12 years ago, Luna Ring. Her black sheath dress was understated but elegant, her camel trench coat resting effortlessly over her shoulders. Her poise radiated presence, not ostentation. If branding had a face, it was hers. And yet none of that mattered. Not when your skin tone rewrote everyone's expectations before you even opened your mouth. "I said," the saleswoman started again, but her words halted the moment she dared to glance up. Daniela tilted her head, a quiet, deliberate motion. Her expression didn't change. A single diamond stud caught the light, drawing the eye to her cool gaze. She wasn't in the mood to teach today. Instead, she delivered the kind of practiced smile that women like her had perfected over decades. A smile meant to pacify rather than provoke. The kind that whispered, "You have no idea who you're speaking to, and I'm choosing peace, for now." "Thanks for the heads up," Daniela said smoothly, her voice like silk dragged across stone. "I'll be just a moment." The woman blinked, as if unsure whether she had just been politely dismissed or quietly warned. "It's just, this section has very high-end pieces," she muttered. "You might be more comfortable browsing near the front displays. They're more accessible." And there it was, the polished version of "You Don't Belong Here." Daniela's fingers, adorned with a single ring her late mother once wore, brushed the velvet lining of the glass case. Her touch paused above a three-stone emerald-cut diamond necklace. She had designed it herself. She remembered sketching it in a hotel lobby in Milan on the back of a napkin after a meeting with venture capitalists who refused to believe she'd built her empire from scratch. Her initials were engraved on the clasp. Still, she stood there like a stranger in her own kingdom. She said nothing. Not yet. Instead, she turned on her heel and walked through the showroom, silently observing the layout. Recently changed, she noted. The missing security detail, the new fixtures, and the way sales associates exchanged subtle glances as she passed. She saw it all, and they didn't see her. She hadn't visited this location in 6 months. New York had needed her more. Investor rounds, her panel talk at the Forbes Women's Summit, her mentorship work with rising Black founders. All of it had pulled her away. She'd trusted her leadership team to hold the line. Apparently, some things had slipped. In the back office, Mira Torres was hunched over a stack of vendor invoices, scribbling figures on a ledger as if trying to solve a crime through accounting. "Mira," Daniela said. The woman flinched, startled, but recognized the voice instantly. "Danny. Oh my God, you didn't say you were coming by. I wanted to see it the way a customer would." Myra's smile faded. "Did something happen?" Daniela walked to the one-way window that overlooked the showroom. She peered through the tinted glass. There was the same saleswoman, now gushing over a diamond ring to a well-dressed white couple, all gleaming smiles and charm. Her tone was syrupy, reverent. "You tell me," Daniela said. Mira followed her gaze and didn't speak for a long moment. Then, barely audible, "She's new. Just transferred from a store in Miami. 3 weeks. Daniela's voice was flat. "Good with the books. She exceeded her numbers last week. She knows how to push the premium lines." "I'm not asking how well she sells," Daniela said, finally turning. "I'm asking what she sees when a Black woman walks in the door." Mira opened her mouth, paused, and said, "I'll talk to her." "No," Daniela said, her voice low and decisive. "You'll fire her." Mira blinked, visibly stunned, but didn't argue. This wasn't a request. "I'll handle it," she said after a beat. "Wait until I leave. I want to see how this finishes." Back on the floor, Daniela wandered toward the sapphire section, pretending to browse. She didn't glance at anyone directly, but she watched them all. The saleswoman, Shelby, spotted her again and looked visibly uncomfortable. She glanced toward her manager, Malcolm, who stood by the front register. Daniela had hired Malcolm herself 5 years ago. He hadn't made eye contact with her once since she entered the store. He nodded, subtly, toward Shelby. A signal. Permission. And that was the problem. Shelby approached again. This time, more cautious. Ma'am, she said, if you're ready to make a purchase, I'd be happy to help. But if you're just browsing, we ask that customers limit their time in this section. It's part of our high-value display policy. Daniela's jaw clenched. It was like watching a familiar scene play out in slow motion. Not rage, not shock. What she felt was heavier, older, an ache born of repetition. The weariness of having to prove your worth inside walls you built. Are you saying I don't look like I can afford these pieces? She asked calmly. No, I didn't mean that. But you implied it. Twice. We have procedures. Daniela tilted her head. Do those procedures include assuming your clientele all looks a certain way? Shelby stammered. I didn't mean anything by it. And that, Daniela said, voice smooth, is the problem. You never do. Malcolm finally hurried over, smiling nervously. Excuse me, is there a problem? No, Daniela said. Just a learning opportunity. One I hope you'll share with the rest of your staff. He frowned. Ma'am, I'm Daniela Reese, she said clearly. Founder, CEO, owner of this store, and 5 more just like it. The silence was immediate and complete. Even the background music seemed to mute itself. Malcolm's face drained of color. Shelby took a step back. And this, Daniela continued, this moment right here, this is going to change everything. Behind her, Mira had appeared, silent but observant. From across the store, a man entered, tall, broad-shouldered, quiet. It was her brother, Langston. He didn't need an explanation. He saw the tremble in her fingers despite the calm in her voice. He knew this wasn't a breakdown. It was a reclaiming. Malcolm opened his mouth. Miss Reese, I didn't realize. You didn't recognize the person who signs your checks, she replied. That says more than I needed to know. She turned to Shelby. And you thought your assumptions were harmless. Routine. Maybe even justified. But what you never asked yourself was, what if I'm wrong? Shelby was silent, face flushed with the crimson of shame and fear. Mira stepped forward, clipboard in hand. I'll walk her out, she said to Daniela. Make sure she understands why, Daniela replied. Shelby whispered. I didn't mean to offend anyone. Policy didn't tell you to judge me, Daniela said, her eyes unwavering. That was all you. Mira took Shelby by the elbow and led her toward the back. Malcolm stepped forward again. Daniela, please. We've worked together for years. I've always respected what you built. To what end? She asked. So your staff could make assumptions while you stood silent? I didn't want to escalate things. No, she said. You didn't want to lose your comfort. But there was never peace here. Just your convenience built on my silence. Langston crossed the floor and stood beside his sister. No words. Just presence. Some customers began to whisper. Some raised their phones. Others watched, unsure if this was one of those moments, the viral kind. But this wasn't a spectacle. This was a reckoning. Daniela addressed the room. Luxury isn't about velvet boxes or diamonds. It's about how people feel when they walk through your doors. If your service says you don't belong, you're not selling jewelry. You're selling shame. She let that settle. I built this brand so women who look like me could walk into a store and be seen. Not sized up, not ignored, not dismissed. Malcolm tried again. We'll start diversity training. I'll bring in consultants. We'll fix this. You think this is about a seminar? She said, her voice cold. You think a slideshow will undo decades of implicit bias? He had no answer. Langston leaned in. You need me to call anyone? Not yet, she said. She turned to Malcolm. Submit your resignation by Friday. You're firing me? I'm giving you the dignity you never gave me, she said. Quiet exit or HR, your choice. Then she faced the rest of the staff. This store reopens tomorrow, but it will not be the same. Ask yourself what story your service tells before I have to. And with that, she left. Langston walked beside her. You all right? I'm tired, she said. You want company? Follow me. He did. They ended up at her favorite cafe, tucked between a bookstore and a barber shop, with warm brick walls and espresso that tasted like it had purpose. Daniela sat with her latte untouched. Langston waited. Then, gently, you didn't cry. I wanted to. You didn't need to. I wanted to just be a customer. But I'll never get to be invisible. No, he said. You were never meant to be. She looked up. They're going to spin this. Then we spin it louder. Her phone buzzed. A video. Shelby's face. Her own words. It was online. It's out, she murmured. Langston asked, You ready? She stared at the screen. I didn't choose this moment, she said. Maybe it chose you. The next week, Daniela announced the restandard, an overhaul of operations, bias training, scholarships, and independent audits across all her stores. A full week of closure. Paid. Mandatory. When she stood before the press under the glass dome she once called her sky ceiling, she said simply, "Dignity is not a perk. It's a promise." As she stepped down from the podium, Langston whispered, "You good?" "I am now," she said. And as they walked out together, a little girl pointed to the storefront and said to her mom, "That's her." That was the moment Daniela knew. She hadn't just built a brand. She built a future, and it finally belonged to her.